Hello and welcome to Power Culture Coco, home of the Coco. I have ideas, and most of those ideas are about dismantling patriarchal myths to heal our wounds of dehumanization and obedience to irrational authority. Today, let's talk about the legacy of coverture laws, a legal doctrine where married women ceased to have a legal identity and were instead considered the literal appendage and property of their husband with no independent rights. So in our last chat, we established that patriarchy is the institutionalization of male narcissism. So women experience relationships with patriarchal men and patriarchal society writ large as narcissistic abuse. I linked it in the description if you missed the video. So coverture laws were the legal manifestation of patriarchal narcissism. The idea that women exist only as objects for male use, profit, and pleasure. Coverture was an English common law doctrine dating back to the Middle Ages that America inherited and upheld until first wave feminism began dismantling its legal framework in the mid-1800s. Once a woman was married, she was no longer considered a separate person from her husband. This meant that married women could not own property, enter into contracts, be sued, or vote. Any property or inheritance that a woman brought into the marriage or received throughout automatically transferred to her husband's ownership and exclusive control. Wives were also obligated to turn over all of their wages to their husbands. Contrary to male provider myths, most women throughout all of history have worked to produce material wealth. It's just that concepts like coverture ensured that their husbands assumed full control over all resources. Which, if we're going to call a spade here, is straight up slavery, right? Patriarchy is about the enslavement of women, which is kind of wild when you hear so many manosphere guys talking about women are all gold digger and hypergamy and blah, 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 blah. Like, no, actually, men are the gold diggers. Men are labor diggers. Men have historically enslaved women. But I digress. So women were not permitted to own anything. Nothing a woman made for herself, nothing she earned, and nothing she inherited. A wife didn't even have a legal claim to the furniture in her own home. In the rare event of divorce, women lost all access and claim to their children, who were considered the property assets of the father, not legally recognized human beings. No, straight up. As I always say, patriarchy centers men and causes the systemic subhuman treatment of children. So what happened to single women? Well, single women could enter into contracts and do their business, but fathers were in control of who and when their daughters married, so most women weren't able to make the choice to remain single. Plus, single women face so much male harassment that it would be much more likely for her to be forced into prostitution than to be able to get her own business off the ground. So that single woman legal status was mostly applicable to widows who had no son to claim control of assets. So in the 1700s, William Blackstone, an English jurist, which is like a legal scholar, right? He described coverture laws like this, quote, "By marriage, the husband and wife are one person in law. That is, the very being or legal existence of the woman is suspended during the marriage, or at least incorporated and consolidated into that of the husband, under whose wing, protection, and cover she performs everything. Under the protection and influence of her husband, her baron, her lord. And for this reason, a man cannot grant anything to his wife, or enter into covenant with her, for to grant would be to suppose her separate existence, and to covenant with her would only be to covenant with himself. A woman may indeed be an attorney for her husband, for that implies no separation from, but is rather a representation of her lord." All right, so that last part is basically saying that a woman can perform work on behalf of her husband, right? She can be his representative and do labor for his benefit, but that a man cannot grant anything to his wife like property or compensation because that would mean she's separate, right? So anything she does to further her husband's wealth and goals, good. Anything that implies the woman is a human being, bad. So this is the literal institutionalization of male narcissism, right? The man is entitled to make profitable use and meaning of the woman as a literal extension of himself, and she is denied the right to any independent existence. So these laws are pretty horrible, right? They enabled men to imprison their wives under the doctrine of protection, and they indemnified men against charges of physically and sexually abusing their wives. Trigger warning, we're going to talk about that next. So, Sir Matthew Hale, he's this guy from the 1600s, an English jurist, and he unilaterally introduced the legal concept that men cannot rape their own wives. Seriously. He just wrote a book and was like, yeah, a man can't rape or abuse their own wives. That's like not a thing. And everyone was like, word, dude, that's law now. That's law. In Pleas of the Crown, he wrote, quote, "The husband cannot be guilty of rape committed by himself upon his lawful wife, for by their mutual matrimonial consent and contract, the wife hath given up herself in this kind unto her husband, which she cannot retract." So he's basically saying that the wife automatically gives irrevocable sexual consent to her husband, so he contractually cannot be denied use of her body. He is contractually entitled to violate her in any manner he can dream of, and it is not a crime. It could be a crime if he did it to another woman, but if he does it to his own wife, no crimesies. And it's pretty wild that Hale was just like unilaterally able to establish this himself, right? There were no previous legal doctrines or precedent for the explicit legalization of marital rape and sexual torture, where a married woman is denied legal recourse for sexual crimes that a single woman would be entitled to pursue. And like, listen, there's straight up no productive outcomes to promoting marital rape as a male entitlement, right? There are no reason to do that beyond shielding men from upholding basic standards of human decency and a level of self-control that is less than what we expect dogs to master to live within human households. And Hale's writings, and I cannot emphasize this enough, from the freaking 1600s are why America had specific marital rape exceptions on the books until the 1970s and 80s, when some individual states started being like, ooh, I don't know about this, guys. It feels kind of icky. But even then, marital rape was not made a crime across the entire country until 1993, within the millennial lifetime. And it gets worse. Like, American women are still feeling the effects of coverture laws, even though they are no longer on the books, right? Hale and Blackstone were both specifically cited in the Supreme Court decision to overturn Roe versus Wade, gutting abortion rights for over 169 million American women. Freaking ghoul of the ages, Justice Alito, quoted these a-holes in his decision, basically being like, actually, American legal heritage never considered abortion a right. It's actually a crime akin to homicide, according to the guy who says marital rape isn't a thing. So, like, sucks, ladies. So, beyond advocating for marital rape, Hale presided over the 1662 Bury St. Edmunds witch trial, and he sentenced the accused women Amy Dunny and Rose Cullender to execution. This was notable because at the time, widespread belief in literal witchcraft was not mainstream. It was eroding from the public consciousness, and yet Hale specifically instructed the jury, witches are real, witchcraft is real, like, we gotta take this seriously, because the Bible says so. So that case would become the template for the Salem witch trials in America, which resulted in over 25 deaths. Oh, and Hale introduced rape skepticism as a legal mandate. I'm not kidding. So I'm going to quote from this great ProPublica article by Ken Armstrong, linked in the description and absolutely worth a full read. In Pleas of the Crown, Hale called rape a most detestable crime. Then in words quoted many times since, he wrote, "It must be remembered that it is an accusation easy to be made and hard to be proved, and harder to be defended by the party accused, though never so innocent." Hale evoked the fear of the false accuser and made for that a legal frame which lasted for more than 300 years. In weighing the evidence in cases of alleged rape, jurors, all men in Hale's time and for a long time after, needed to consider a series of factors, Hale wrote. Did the woman cry out? Did she try to flee? Was she of good fame or evil fame? Was she supported by others? Did she make the immediate complaint afterward? Hale's words and formulation became a standard feature of criminal trials in the United States, with jurors instructed by judges to be especially wary of allegations of rape. The effect was predictable. Charges of rape were frequently rejected. So this is why less than 2% of rapists are ever tried and convicted to this day. The legacy of coverture laws and the thought pattern around it of male narcissistic entitlement to abuse women. So coverture was the law of the land in the United States until the mid-1800s, when states started passing Married Women Property Acts. So New York passed theirs in 1848, which became the template for many other states to grant married women rights to own their own property and control their own earnings. But still, the legacy of coverture laws extends to modern women to this day. Fun announcement. I'm launching YouTube membership live streams next week, so I'm going to post a separate video with details, but I really hope you'll join me. I want to create a safe and comfortable space for us to connect directly, and I just want to be able to chat with you all in real time, and I have so much in my head that it's sometimes hard to get it out into videos, and this is just going to be really super fun and direct, and I'm really excited. So more details to come. Keep an eye out. And beyond that, please like and subscribe for weekly videos. I'm so happy you're here. You can check me out on TikTok at Coco Has Ideas, and I'll see you soon, my friends.